Good. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 181 of Salvaggio and Cratty. Here for you again another Wednesday, February 21st, 7:01 p.m. Felt weird to say the name of the podcast differently, but I'm going to try and get used to that. Different show than usual. We're taking a little bit of a siesta from football because there's not like a ton of stuff to talk about besides the tagging coming up, Matthew Slater retirement. I don't want to undersell that as such a big leader he's been. We get some NBA All-Star Weekend and Jayson Tatum related discussions. Some Bruins and some Red Sox as they've been a little busy as well. Before we do, Ryan, as always, how are you?
I'm doing good. I guess we really no other pleasantries. We can just kind of jump right into it with the Slater stuff because my biggest takeaway is this is something I feel like we kind of saw a long time coming. We briefly touched on it a little bit that last game of the year against the Jets when everyone came out in the Slater with the sweatshirts, the jackets that they had on.
Yes.
They released a video, a tearjerker if you watched it, of his last post game speech in the locker room. But again, you kind of saw the pictures come out after the game of him hugging David Andrews. And I think we said at the time, like, you clearly see David Andrews was in tears. So you kind of knew something. Either he was going, Slater was going, both of them. But obviously we know now it's Slater. It sucks because he was everything I feel like would want in a player. Incredibly smart, as we talked about. I think it was you that said wouldn't be surprised if you saw him maybe in a GM role somewhere down the line or a front office position or whatever it was that you said at the time.
Even as simply as just special teams coordinator.
That for now. But that was kind of the point I was going to make is like that's the level of like smarts and football expertise that he has. Where like I feel like you could see him step into a front office role if he wanted it and not really skip a beat. But it's going to be a tough loss because we know the special teams unit from a football standpoint was not the best. He was one of the few bright spots on it. A leader in the locker room, obviously. So it's just another veteran voice that is going to be gone now. But you obviously wish him all the best in retirement. He was, again, as perfect of a player I feel like you could come up with and you could find. Obviously, a guy that was not going to light up the stat sheet being on the special teams unit. But what he meant for that team and the organization as a whole, obviously, I think is going to be unmatched for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. 16 years, multiple Super Bowls. I think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers, and I'm assuming a lot of other players seem to think so as well. Huge leader gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the worst part of it. But you can't play football forever. He was emotional. If you watch the mic'd up video before the game, knowing it was it, can't imagine what was going through his head the whole time. He gets a snow game for his last game of his career,
That's pretty cool.
which is
Yep.
pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Just a man, like there's really no flaws in a guy like Matthew Slater. He's in a way like the Zdeno Chara of the Patriots to me. Just incredible, an incredible leader, incredible guy. Never took a snap off and was remarkably consistent and remarkable in terms of how he aided the transformation over the years of this team into a dynasty, because it's not always the skill players. It's the guys who make the small plays and are vocal in the locker room. And Slater embodies that better than a lot of players we've seen as Patriots in our lifetime and football players in general. Just a huge loss. He'll be close to the team. It's not like his influence won't be felt,
Mm-hmm.
but just a complete legend, a complete class act, and it sucks that he's gone from the league. So, oh, man, it really does stink, even though it was expected. But jeez,
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough to replace in the locker room. I just can't get over that. New coach. In an ideal world, you have a guy like Matthew Slater in the locker
That's a
room
good
with the
point.
new
Yep.
staff. But time was up. He's how old is he? Um,
Probably if I had to guess, mid 30s, maybe
38.
early
I was gonna
30s.
say 38. I'm not just saying that.
38 is what he is. Wow, so that's older than I thought
Yeah,
he was. I thought he
he
was like
just he
35,
looks
36.
amazing for 38.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, body wears down, even for special teamers who aren't always making these huge, physical plays every play,
Mm-hmm.
like a linebacker or something like that. But what a legend! It sucks that he's gone, but what an amazing career.
Yeah, it also just has that feeling that we've been going through a lot lately with this Patriots team. It seems like it's the whole end of an era thing. Obviously, happened with Brady way back in the day, happened with Belichick this offseason. Now Slater follows suit. It's just another, kind of turning over to a new regime, new, maybe younger type of thing. But yeah, I think we've said all we can about Slater, and just again the professional that he was both on and off the field. And again, like you said, it's a president that's going to be missed because it's a good point you bring up that this is a guy that maybe you could have hoped stuck around one more year just to kind of ease Gerard Mayo into the head coaching role. But from what we're not going to go over all the coaching stuff that happened today with guys meeting with the media and everything, but from what we've heard in that, seems like everyone's kind of on not pace, but kind of in a good headspace type of thing. Like they talked about, like wanting to, build a good culture and everything. So it seems like they're going to be off on a good foot regardless. It just stinks that Slater won't be a part of that.
Yeah. So I agree. It just sucks, to see a guy like that
For
walk
sure. Yep.
away, and we wish him the best. A couple other notes, we're getting around tag season. We've seen Trent Brown, he won't come back. Jalen Mills' contract will be voided or will just automatically void somehow, I think. Adrian Phillips, who had his playing time significantly reduced due to special teams. Veteran, I think they could have kept around, but, they want that cap flexibility. Maybe they want to, give guys like Marte Mapu and Josh Bledsoe some more special teams reps. I don't know, but is there one other name, one other move I'm
Safety.
forgetting?
That you're forgetting Lawrence Guy. Did you say him?
Lawrence Guy.
That was like the first
Easy to
big one,
forget
and
because he
then
didn't do anything this year.
yeah,
So.
he was your king
I
of
hate
like
to I
one
hate to
tackle.
harp on a guy that's so good in the community, but he just had so many games where he did
Well, that
nothing
was the
with
thing.
plenty
You
of
kind of could see
snaps.
that one coming. Like that was the one that made the most sense when it happened. It was a little surprising to see the name, but we talked about it numerous times this year. You just alluded to it now, like a guy that, again, no pun intended with the name, but saw his not ability or maybe his playing time, whatever you wanted to put it to, come down drastically. Obviously, there was just stuff going into the season with the contract dispute. So the writing, I feel like, was kind of on the wall with him. I
Yeah.
wonder from a Phillips standpoint, I was going to maybe get your thoughts on it as well. We saw obviously Jalen Mills get cut last year, but then brought back on a cheaper deal. I wonder if maybe
Ooh.
that's something that, could maybe be in the works here. Cause Phillips is
Ooh.
a guy, like you said, his playing time diminished. But I don't think, his ability diminished by any means. I think he's still a guy that has, plenty of skill left and could be very useful in a certain role. So I wonder if maybe that's something they keep in the back of their minds. Or like you said, maybe they just want to go in the younger route. We saw Mapu have his snaps obviously increased and played pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Bledsoe kind of was hit or miss at times. So, that's not really a
Yeah.
guy that I'm, not that I'm not looking forward to seeing, but wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy that
Yeah.
you have to, make a roster crunch that he gets it.
Yeah.
But
Bledsoe
Phillips
will
is definitely an
essentially
interesting one.
become like more of just like a full-time special teamer more so
True.
than like
Yep.
taking safety reps. Maybe he takes a little bit more, but the thing with Phillips too is in the unlikely scenario, hopefully unlikely, that Kyle Duggar plays elsewhere next year. You could really use a guy like that back.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yep.
no doubt, and there's nothing we know of that would say he wouldn't do that, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Brown's gone. Like, thank God.
Very happy about that. JC
Very
Jackson. I don't know if
happy.
you mentioned him, could be the next guy out too. That
Please,
would be, I don't know why that
please.
hasn't happened yet, unless just some
It's not even as
like
much the
contractual thing I'm
person.
missing.
It's not even as much the person with JC Jackson. Like, it just didn't work. Like,
It
he's just
worked
not
for like
good.
one game and everyone was
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe you struck lightning in a bottle again. And then it just completely went downhill immediately. It's like, nope, I'm not going to get fooled by that again.
I
Like,
don't want to try that again. I want plenty of Christian Gonzalez. I want Jonathan Jones hopefully back.
yep.
I believe he's a free agent. Maybe I'm wrong. Marcus Jones, if he stays healthy, he needs a role.
Yeah, you kind of
Um,
forget
and
about him.
and I'm hoping the Patriots draft another corner in rounds like 3 and 4 that I would like to get some playing time. I like Cam Hart from Notre Dame, just to throw a name out there, even though I
I'm
hate Notre
forgetting
Dame.
his name, but I'll take more of the, who was the kid that I said was just not an NFL player. And then for like 3 straight weeks, he was one of their top corners. The guy,
Miles or Alex Austin.
yes, Alex Austin. Thank you.
They do have Miles Bryant too. I
Yep.
believe he might be a UFA or an ERFA.
I'm not sure what his
Um,
situation is, what he ended up
he's
signing
got some
last year
sort of
contract wise.
free
But
agency status, but yeah, I mean, given the jettisoning of some veterans, I think going young is good.
mhm.
When it comes to who to tag, I would lean towards them tagging Duggar, but I would prefer they keep Big Mike around because I think Duggar might be a little easier to negotiate with. Mike and
Mhm.
Wenu kind of seems like he might want to just hit the open market regardless and at least do that and circle back maybe. Kyle
Okay,
Duggar, I haven't heard much inclination that he's like in that same headspace. Also, Onwenu will more than likely than not make more money than Duggar will.
for
So
sure. Yep.
that's something to monitor. I just think whether you draft, specifically in the first round, if you're going receiver or QB, I think having a fixture on your offensive line, a homegrown talent, even on the franchise tag for a year, then you reassess next year.
You don't think that?
For that next guy, when you
Mhm.
lose Trent Brown, arguably in a subtraction that's addition instead of addition by subtraction. You know
Yeah,
what I
that
mean? You know what
yeah,
I'm
I know
getting
what
at.
you mean. That yep, that's the
Um,
saying.
I think you can't lose Mike and Wendu, and if you do, you better hope to God you get a guy like Jonah Williams
Well,
because I
yeah, if
think
you lose
he's
both
out.
tackles, you're fucked.
If he's out in Cincy, I hope he can get a guy like Jonah Williams. In that event, if you get Williams and then tag Duggar, I'm okay with that. Losing Mike would suck, but I
Mhm.
think Williams will be cheaper. He's maybe a couple years older. But that's where my head's at. I'm leaning towards them tagging Duggar. Um, hope it's on Wenu on the outside chance. Some other big names across the league. We got Evans, Higgins, just to name a few. I don't have the whole list in front of me, but
Mhm.
um, Chris Jones, I guess you could put in there, but like he'll freak out if he gets tagged again. I
Yeah.
bet.
Well,
Um, where are you at with the Patriots
that's
and
the
other
point I was
tagging
gonna
news?
make, and the question I wanted to ask you, because I kind of feel that way with the franchise tag, and we've seen it with numerous players before. Maybe not to the extent that like you just mentioned that Chris Jones was, but like Saquon, I feel like was a guy that was not very high on getting tagged. Like to me, the franchise tag almost symbolizes the beginning of the end. Like it's one of those things. It's like, all right, well, we'll get this guy for one more year, and he's probably going to leave. So that's why I'm weary on franchise tagging Michael Onwenu. Like I texted you the other day, I would
Hmm.
just want them to just throw the bag at him. You're right. He probably will test the
Hopefully,
market
yeah,
just to
hopefully
see, yeah, what's out
he
there. Because
owes
we've
it to
seen guys do
himself
that
too.
before. Absolutely, we've seen guys do that before.
Everybody
Didn't
should
Yeah?
like
Didn't David Andrews do that? Or one of the guards or was it Ted
maybe
Karras? There was somebody I
maybe
thought
it was
that did,
Tooney
and yeah,
or
that
yeah,
too.
I think Karras was like tested the market but was willing to come back. I don't know if
Hmm.
Tooney was.
It
Wait,
was
did
one of
they
the.
trade Tooney?
No, I think they just flat out lost into Kansas City. But I think didn't
No,
that come
they
after
didn't
they
trade
tagged
him.
him for
Yeah,
a year? I feel
I
like that might have
believe
happened.
so.
So
I
that's what, like
believe
I'm
so.
I'm very
Yeah, that's
weary
a
on
good
the
point.
I'm very weary on the franchise tag for that reason. Any thoughts? Because I've seen his name thrown around a little bit on tagging, the possibility of tagging Hunter Henry. Like if that's a name that might come up. I've seen a couple of times. Wouldn't be the worst thing. I don't know what the tight end market's going to look like. I don't know if a guy like Dalton Schultz is going to be available. Because if I had to pick between him and Hunter Henry, I might lean Dalton Schultz. Um,
Hmm.
but that's just another name to keep out there. I'm with you. The move will probably be to tag Duggar because it seems like it'll be the easier of the two. Um, but like I said, if you're gonna throw the bag at somebody, it's got to be Michael Onwenu because, like you just laid out, doomsday scenario, lose both tackles, not a recipe for success. I'm with you. I'm fine with them getting rid of Trent Brown. I don't think he was gonna come back here regardless of what happened. So that's not a move I'm
Yeah.
too upset by. But it is an interesting time, like you said, with the names you threw out there, guys that could be getting tagged, could be looking for new contracts. Be obviously keep an eye on to see what happens.
Yeah. And on the tight ends thing, real quick, before we shift topics here, I do wonder what the new offensive staff can get out of Henry, Schultz, anyone
Mhm.
they draft, because I believe TC McCartney, who's with the staff now, was the tight ends coach in Cleveland, and Alex Van Pelt worked a little bit, well, probably a lot actually, with David Njoku, who just had a sick season.
Yep.
So maybe if they can work a little bit of magic here. Hunter Henry can return to the Hunter Henry that we know he can be. I'm not
Mhm.
really blaming last season on him a ton.
No,
I
absolutely not.
I think the whole scheme for him kind of changed, and yeah, if it's Dalton Schultz, I think that's an interesting guy to monitor as well. What they can maximize in his skill set.
Absolutely.
Anything you have on football before we shift topics here?
Not really, like you said. It's one of those, right now it's kind of the quiet time where nothing happens. I
Yeah,
think
it's gonna kick
you
up.
put it pretty well in the tweet, the calm before the storm type of thing.
Hmm.
Where draft's going to start to kick up a little bit. Free agency will obviously do that as well. So we'll have more obviously when that does happen.
Indubitably,
Hmm.
Ryan. The Celtics are not back yet, but
Nope.
NBA All-Star Weekend took place this past weekend, and it stunk. I did not
Tumultuous
watch
one to
it.
say the least. Yeah, not good.
I've heard. I feel like people will, throw takes out there. Like it's falling off, whatever. Dunk contest isn't that cool anymore. Even though Mac McClung put on a show last year.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of talk about the dunk contest being dead. I
Oh,
just
it is.
don't think anybody cares about the All-Star game at all for a while, or anymore, not at all for a while, as I
Mhm.
misspoke.
It's okay. It happens.
It's pretty dead. And I think they tried to bring Jaylen Brown in to put some excitement in there, and it really didn't happen. And look, unless we're like Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, even back before we were alive, All-Star Game dunk contest, anything like that, any semblance of that, I will not be watching for the
Well, that's
foreseeable
what I was going to
future.
ask you. How much of this you caught? I'm sure
No, nothing.
you didn't catch anything. You didn't even tune in to watch
No,
Jaylen
didn't even
Brown's dunk.
try. Didn't
Okay,
even
fair
try.
enough. I feel like there's a decent amount of people that probably share the same thought process you do because you hit the nail on the head. Saturday night, not wasn't doing anything, so I usually watch or I'll tune in for a couple of events, stuff like that. This was the um I'm with you. Like I think it has been dying for a while. The All-Star weekend as a whole. Some events more than others. This was the first weekend outside of one event that I'll touch on in the second that I really thought like this. There is no fixing any of these. Like this whole event as a weekend as a whole sucks. Um, just to start, obviously going in order of how they happen. The skills competition that stunk per usual. Like I don't know how exciting a skills competition for basketball players can be because you really only have them run like an obstacle course. It was funny watching guys go the complete wrong way. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. There was like 2 or 3 guys, Scotty Barnes included, who him being in the All-Star game as a whole was a joke. Like, and he was just put that on display in the skills competition, dribbling the ball off his foot as like one of the first guys to go in it. Looked like you or I out there trying to play basketball. No offense to your basketball skills. But he
None,
just
baby.
a complete fish out of water, and it did not look right. And not even the fact that I'm obviously a Celtics fan, like the fact that he still made it over a guy like Porzingis or Derek White. You can make a case for Barnes over White more so than you could Barnes over Porzingis. Like one of those two guys should have been there over him. But the skills competition as a whole, it stunk. Even Anthony Edwards, who I like, he clearly didn't give a crap about it because he did the whole skills competition left-handed. Obviously not a lefty, so that was kind of funny to watch. Just kind of make a mockery of the whole thing. Didn't really care. Um, the 3-point contest, I will side with Reggie Miller on this because he always says that it is the best competition of the week. One of the more enticing ones to watch. Damian Lillard, in typical Damian Lillard fashion, waited until the final shot of the 3-point contest to win the thing. So that was typical Dame time there. The best event as a whole, I don't know if you caught or saw any of this on social media, but the Steph Curry versus Sabrina, I think it's Ionescu.
Ionescu.
Thank you.
I've heard Ionescu lately.
I don't know if it was Nesq or something. You put like a little thing on
Ionescu.
the end there, but no, that was the best event of the entire thing. Like that was really cool because there was obviously some talk, and if you listen to Kenny Smith, he was one of the people that just listening to him. I said it during the broadcast. I'm like, this guy's doing his best Tony Romo imitation. And I like Kenny Smith, but he was just horrible in this event. In all honesty, talking about like, oh, they should have made it the WNBA 3-point line to give Ionescu more of a chance against Steph, or they should have, or I think she did use a WNBA size ball. But he was talking about that, and it got to the point where I think even Reggie Miller was basically wanted to tell him like, dude, shut the fuck up on national television, which would have been funny. But it was awesome. She went toe to toe right with Steph. I think she hit like 6 of her first 7 shots or something, really put the pressure on. But then in typical Steph Curry fashion, he closed it out late. But that was a great event. Reggie Miller had an awesome idea too of next year getting Steph, Dame, Sabrina, and Caitlin Clark if she comes out, because I don't know what the rules are if she comes out of college or goes into the WNBA or what the situation is there. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not don't follow the WNBA. But Reggie Miller had a great idea to have those 4 go against each other in kind of a 2v2 type of thing, which would be pretty cool to watch. I think it obviously I think did pretty good numbers this year. Again, it was probably the best event of the entire weekend. You
I'll say
mentioned
this on Caitlin
go ahead.
Clark real quick. She should be allowed to play in the NBA.
Allowed to play in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty good from the highlights that I have seen, and obviously
Nothing against Sabrina. I'm just not as familiar with Sabrina's highlights as I am Caitlin Clark's.
Well, to be honest, when I first heard about this, is I got the 2 girls mixed up, so that's my bad on that. But I thought Steph was going up because Caitlin Clark has the 3-point record. I'm pretty sure. Or she said it the other day, the scoring record, whatever it was.
Clark just like pulls up from pretty much half court for fun and hits it.
Well, she said that in her interview. I remember seeing it. She's like, "You guys didn't think I was going to shoot a half court 3 to nail the record? Like you're insane." Or paraphrasing whatever it was that she said exactly. But
yeah, she's just effortlessly talented. Like
absolutely, yeah.
She's
one of those people, one of the athletes that just like you're born with it right from the get go. Yeah. Like you're a freak of nature almost. Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to put it. But you mentioned the worst event of all, the dunk contest. Look, Mac McClung put it, gave it a little bit of the defibrillator back to life last year, but he couldn't save it again this year. You mentioned it. They put a star at it in Jaylen Brown, which was cool to see. Like, again, the stars don't do the dunk contest. And if you saw on social media after the dunk contest happened, it's the exact reason why. Jaylen Brown, superstar player, goes out there, tries to do it. He said he was going out there just to have fun and got absolutely clowned for pretty much everything he did. So if you wonder why stars don't do the dunk contest, this is why. Um, Look, I like Jaylen Brown. I wanted him to win. I was upset that he didn't win because I may not have some money on it. Um, he was a great showman. Again, I don't know if you saw the highlights on social media. Some of the stuff he did. Is it Kai Cenat, or how do you say this?
I think it's
The
Kai Senate.
Senate. Okay,
That's what I've heard. I don't know anything about the guy, but I see him on
I didn't
Twitter
either.
every
So when
now
he
and
came
again.
out, like I had seen pictures on social media that he was going to do something with this guy. So I'm like, all right, whatever it is. But that dunk was lame. Like when you have guys dunking over Shaq, Mac McClung did it to win the contest. I think Obi Toppin's brother did it on his first dunk, or whoever it was. It might have been Jaime Jaquez. When you have guys dunking over Shaq and you dunk over whatever this guy is, he's not very tall, so I'm not going to height shame him or anything. Sitting down, like not a great look there for Jaylen Brown. The one that he did do that was cool was the tribute to Terrence Clark, who passed away, I think last year or a couple years ago. Put his jersey on, so that was cool to see. Got a nice kind of rouse out of the crowd there. The
Yeah,
first
I
dunk.
believe they
Go
I
ahead.
believe Terrence knew Brown and Tatum personally. I might
They
be
were, yeah,
wrong.
I remember seeing
He's
that
from
him and
Dorchester
Brown,
too, so
yeah, the native, not native, a local kid. I remember seeing that him and Brown were very close. I didn't know about
mhm.
Tatum,
Yeah,
or not.
maybe not Tatum, but think I remember hearing
Okay.
something about.
But yeah, I mean that dunk was one of the cooler ones of the night again, just for the tribute alone. The first dunk probably would have been cool to see. I don't know if you saw this. If they showed it, like he came out, Dominique Wilkins was obviously one of the judges. So Brown, who's from Atlanta, or from Georgia, I don't know if he's from Atlanta specifically, but came out with somebody dressed as Dominique Wilkins, like in the old Atlanta Hawks jersey, and the TNT broadcast decided to show that guy instead of Brown's dunk. So the first dunk they have from a superstar player didn't even get shown on TV, so that was a nice touch there by TNT. The best dunk he had of the night, though, I'm sure you saw this one, was the one where he put the like studded glove on, or the sparkly glove, and everyone
Didn't see it.
really, you didn't see that one either. Wow, it was a funny dunk. Like again, everyone took it as like, and he even said it afterwards that he was paying tribute to Indiana native Michael Jackson, which BS. Everyone knew right away as soon as he put it on his left hand. Like that was a reference to the joke that he can't go left, which was pretty funny. So again, if you want to go off of showmanship, Jaylen Brown probably should have won it,
I
but
saw the lead up to that. Like you quote tweeted it, I
mhm.
think.
Yeah, I did. I was like,
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
didn't see like the whole ensemble though. I don't
Mhm.
think.
Again, though, the dunk wasn't anything special, and that was kind of the problem with Brown is he did all these like funny and cool things. Like again, I don't know if you think of Jaylen Brown as maybe like a showman when it comes to this type of stuff. Like he obviously is a great in-game dunker, and that was what everybody talked about leading up to the event, was how he was going to do, with that kind of moniker around him. I thought again, showmanship was good, but his dunks were just like plain old dunks. They weren't anything special. So that's kind of why in the end he didn't get it. But I don't know. There was some people that on social media that were like they were kind of happy he didn't win because there was a lot of people, maybe the conspiracy theorists that were like, oh, they put a superstar in the dunk contest, they're going to have him win it to try to revive the dunk contest. I don't think there's anything you can do to revive the dunk contest. I think it's as good as dead because it was not like you had fans booing pretty much everyone's attempt. It was not that entertaining again outside of what Brown did for a couple of his things. And then Mac McClung again dunking over Shaq, which was cool to see. You said the All Star game too. You mentioned that one. For the people that are complaining about that and saying like, "Oh, the All Star game needs to be fixed. You have to do something." You can't fix the All Star game. No one's going to play defense in it. No one's going to want to because there's obviously the risk
Yeah.
of injury. Like it's legit just a glorified show off contest. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like you had guys just I can't remember what the number of threes that were taken where it was ridiculous. Obviously you had the scoring record broken. The East dropped 200 plus points. Just let it be what it is. Like if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But they tried it a couple of years ago. Having I think it was playing whatever the rule was, playing by quarters, and whoever won the quarter donated charity. That was like the one time you saw guys play defense, but you're not going to get that every year. Obviously, that ran its course when they changed back to the East versus West. So, like I said, the amount of people I saw that were just up in arms that the All Star game sucks. Like there's no reason. It is what it is. Like you're not gonna, like I said, get guys to play defense. It's not gonna happen. These guys just go to kind of hang out, do their thing, and go home. Like
Yeah.
so. Unless you have any ideas, or like you said, you didn't watch any of it, so I can't imagine that you were too
Don't
invested
care.
in it.
Yeah.
Or like you said, don't really care. I don't know how you could fix it. Like you're not gonna
No.
like incentivize guys to play more. Like
No, there's nothing to fix it.
mhm.
One thing I did want to bring up, I just saw that Derek White and Peyton Pritchard are currently at the Barstool office doing a blindfolded free throw contest
Okay,
and just like hanging out. So that's pretty funny.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be doing blindfold though. The Celtics free throw shooting, as we talked about before, is like the one thing I don't like about this team. They're not very good at it. But yeah, like that was the. I don't know what you can do to fix All Star Weekend as a whole. That's kind of been my main takeaway, and a lot of people's takeaway as well. As something needs to change, but it's not an easy event to as a whole to fix. Like it's definitely not an easy game. You can't take it like the NHL did and make it 3-on-3 or something like that to make it a little bit more enticing. Um, you know, I don't know if you can't really go the NFL route and just make it a flag football game like they did. Like there isn't a definitive answer. I saw somebody on Twitter say like, "Oh, make it like baseball used to be, where like the conference winner gets home field or home court advantage in the NBA Finals." To which the Celtics fan I saw was like, if Tatum and the Celtics lose out on home court advantage because the East are sending stiffs like Scotty Barnes and somebody else, they'd be pissed. It's kind of funny. It's kind of right. Um, but it is what it is. Again, you go there to kind of watch some of the cool, like there were a couple of cool moments. Damian Lillard was knocking down half court shots. Tyrese Halliburton was putting on a show for the home fans in Indiana. Luka, I don't know if you saw this on social media, tried to like alley oop it to himself and got stuffed by the rim, which was kind of funny to watch. But other than that, like again, the All Star game is what it is. It's a glorified street ball kind of show off thing. And if you're into that, that's cool. If you're not, all I can tell you is don't watch because like you're not going to be happy with it regardless. So it's not that big of a deal. Like I think people have kind of made it out to be the last couple of days.
Yeah, hold on one second. Just plug into my laptop charger.
It's okay.
Yeah, it sucks.
It is what it
really
is.
Have anything to add?
Again, too, I wouldn't just to finish it off. I've seen some people say like, "Oh, it's the worst All Star game out of them all." Again, the Pro Bowl exists. Like that, nothing is going to beat the Pro Bowl in my opinion. Like you're not going to get actual All Star game like the MLB does. So that's the best one. Hockey, the changes they made have been pretty good. It really is, to each their own though. What you enjoy and what you don't.
Yeah, exactly. The more exciting part of our basketball topic is Jayson Tatum for MVP. A drum I've been beating for years. I don't know if I picked him this year though.
I don't think
he
so.
will win one
last
eventually.
year was your usually Tatum pick, I think.
I think I did 2 in a row.
You might have.
Yeah, so Tatum's got a good case for MVP right now. ESPN has him ranked 6th in their latest straw poll with NBA insiders, 100 of them. He's ranked 6th. I'll get to my stuff first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because yours are more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
I think with this list, it goes Jokic, Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis, Luka, Kawhi, Tatum. I think Tatum should absolutely be above Kawhi. And I think Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, and Anthony Edwards should as well.
Yeah, everyone has kind of talked about that. That's been the main talking point is that Tatum is 6th. And I think it was Eddie House that said the same thing on the last Celtics game before the break. Was Tatum at 6 is crazy, and I 100% agree with him. That Anthony Edwards at 9 is even more insane. Mm-hmm. Like that guy's on the best team in the West. He is one of the biggest reasons why Minnesota has been one of the biggest surprises this season. They were a good team last year, but the fact that they've taken off as much as they have this year, Edwards has been right at the front of that. I'd even throw Jalen Brunson into that category. Like the stats aren't crazy, but
22. Anthony Edwards is still 22.
He's insane. Yep, he is going to be one of these stars of this league for quite some time. But I'm with you. Like Tatum at 6 is way too low. A lot of the times I feel like when you insiders do these type of things, like it becomes a popularity contest. Like I think that's why you have great seasons that they're having in Giannis and Luka. But like you look at what their teams have done, and I know we've talked about this when we do like the baseball MVP stuff. It's like, oh, team performance shouldn't knock a guy. That's why I've been against Mike Trout in the past. Milwaukee's been a massive disappointment this year. They've been kind of a laughing stock throughout the most of the season. Giannis, to me, he's not stat padding, but like that, it's a 2-man show there, and Giannis and Damian Lillard. So like that team has not been anything special. Luka Doncic being 4th in the MVP voting, yeah, he leads the league in points per game. He's averaging almost a triple double, but like that 7th in the West. Like you're gonna give the MVP to a guy that's 7th in the West. Like I've seen a lot of people kind of argue that the MVP as it's been in the past, like best player on the best team. And that's obviously Jayson Tatum's on the best team in the NBA. Yeah, he's probably not going to beat a guy out like Jokic because Jokic is just on another level. But I'm right there with you. Like you throw Jokic at the 1, you throw Shea at the 2, because again, he kind of falls into the same spot that Anthony Edwards falls into, is that OKC has been such a great surprise and they've been so good this season. And Shea's been a huge reason why. Like he should definitely get consideration. But right there, top 3, Tatum should be in it. And I know his stats don't compare with a guy like Giannis who's averaging 30. Doncic, like I said, is leading the league with 32.2. But Tatum, for other reasons, I think should have, and a lot of people have kind of said the same thing, should, be making more of a case that he is making guys, around him better. He's obviously
Yeah, bigger
has
leadership
seen.
role now.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that when, the smart trade happened, that we wanted this type of thing to happen for Brown and Tatum as well. Be more of leaders, like you said, have a more facilitation role. And Tatum has taken that and just absolutely flown with it. He's a guy that could be averaging 30, like I said, Giannis was. But the fact that he is deferring on certain nights, and knows that, yeah, I could be going out here and doing all the scoring, but I'm going to make my teammates around me better. We've seen huge not increases in play because they've been good players, but like Derek White's obviously taken a huge step forward. Porzingis is having maybe a career year with the talent that's around him. So that alone, like Tatum deferring on nights and making these guys around him better and putting in more of a, I think, two-way effort that we've seen in the more than maybe so that we've seen in the past on both ends of the floor. That should have him as up there as an MVP candidate more so than he is at sixth because again he's
Mhm.
going night in night out having these type of performances. Yeah, the numbers might not jump off the page on certain nights, but again, it's the fact that he has been deferring and he has been making guys around him better. That's what the MVP should be. Like it shouldn't
Mhm.
just be your specific stats. It's how you're affecting your team play overall. And Tatum, as we've seen with the Celtics being the number one seed for most of the year, and again, all these guys having career years and playing good around him. Again, the fact that he is sixth is just absolutely crazy. And the fact that, guys like Giannis, Doncic, I have
Yeah.
no idea why Kawhi Leonard is fifth on this list. I like Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
The Clippers have been great this year, and he stayed healthy for the most part, but his stats don't jump off the page to me. Tatum should definitely be above him.
Yeah.
Again, I think at this point, Luka and Giannis are just padding stats, so Tatum should definitely jump those two guys, and he's been on the better team. So that's where I would
Yeah.
put it with that.
I think the interesting thing, and I'll throw Halliburton in there too. I didn't have
Absolutely,
Halliburton
yeah.
ahead of
Yep.
Kawhi, but I noticed you did, and I looked at it again, and I agree. Um, I think it's easy. I'm not saying every insider said this, but they see the 43-12 record and be like, "Oh, he's just on the best team." Like it's
Hmm.
not always like immediately like he is influencing players around him in a much different way than usual. Um, he's the best player on the best team. Is he, you know, the sole reason or like this huge driving force? I think
Hmm.
it's easy to be like, oh, he's just on the best team. Like, maybe it should be a guy on a little bit of a lesser team that's, maybe meant to carry the load a little more. Um, I think that can easily be misconstrued, and I don't know, the mindset of all these insiders, but I think it's such a deep debate in terms of what your record is and how you affect the people around you. And
Hmm.
I think he made a great case for how he affects the team around him because it's much different than last year.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, I really like the argument. I think there's absolutely a case for at least top four,
Hmm.
if not top three for Tatum. And I don't know if there's a number one. I think it's Jokic. Um, and Shea is definitely number two. So now that I think of it, yeah, I think his ceiling is three right now.
Yeah, and because I think he was asked about this at All Star Weekend, and he brought up a good point. And people have there's been some people, I think Stephen A. Smith was one of them, that kind of came to Tatum's defense on it. The fact that there are some people that want to knock him for like old playoff performances, and the people want to hold
Yeah,
the
I'm
finals
glad you brought
performance
this
over his
up.
head, which is idiotic. We talked about it when it happened. Yeah, he wasn't great in that finals, but the fact that you're holding something over a guy's head 3 years ago or whatever it was, 2 or 3 years ago, um, completely idiotic. Like I said, Tatum said it himself that like people want to hold old playoff performances, old, performances in years past against them. You said it, it's been all over social media this week. The narrative all of a sudden that people want to just knock Tatum for being part of a super team his whole career, which, if people go back and
Which is
remember that,
nonsense.
yeah, I was going to say, which if
The
people go
Celtics have
back
been
and
very
remember,
good, but super team needs to be reserved for the what was the year when Durant joined the Warriors that year,
that run,
and
yeah, I
then
mean, you could go back
what
that
are some
run,
other
the old Celtics of Garnett, Pierce, and Allen,
yeah,
but
like do you
people also
consider
need to
Bosh
remember.
Wade James a super team or just like a really really good team?
Mhm,
Like is that considered a super team widely?
the which one? The
Bosh Wade and
Oh,
LeBron.
absolutely, yeah. And people will say
Yeah,
that was if
but
you ask
like
the oh the
I feel like I don't hear that one in the conversation as much.
Bosch, Wade, and James, absolutely it was.
I feel like everybody just talks about really it just shows how deep I am in the discourse about the Durant Warriors team. I don't
Mhm.
really
No, the
I'm
only
gonna say
people
I
that
hear the term associated with that team more than I do the Bosch Wade LeBron Heat team.
that's kind of
I
insane.
guess.
But I was gonna say the only people that don't
Let's
think
just
that
say
was
that's where I'm at in the
it's fair, it's
NBA
fair.
discourse.
The only people that don't think that team was a super team and want to knock it was if you ask Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, is they'll tell you that like, oh, the NBA was ruined when LeBron teamed up with all those guys to form that super team. And it's like, dude, you guys did that 2 years
Oh
before that, or
yeah,
2 or 3 years
salad
before that. Like
brains.
you were the first super team. You,
Strike it
Allen,
from the
and
record.
yeah, there you go. Um, I lost my train. No, I was gonna say people need to, and I've seen this on social media too, that for all the people that want to argue that Tatum was part of a super team right when he came into the league, people forget that I think his rookie year was the year Gordon Hayward, game one of the year, snaps his ankle. Kyrie
That
missed
was
the
his
end of
rookie
that.
year.
I think so. That's
Oh
why he
fuck
played
yeah,
so
we were in
much.
college.
But yeah,
Jeez.
that's the thing. Like Tate, okay, that team, yeah, was great on paper. You lost two all-star superstar players, Hayward at the start of the year, and I think that was the year Kyrie got hurt at the end of it. So that's why Tatum played so much. And Brown as well. I think in either his second or third year in the league, and then whatever year it was, either Kyrie got hurt again or left, or maybe it was the same year that at one point Tatum was playing with like a combination of like Tristan Thompson, Evan Fournier,
Oh,
Carson Edwards, and some other bum. Like so, there's been team plenty of
Tremont
times.
Waters.
Yeah, exactly. There's been plenty of
Javante
times.
Green, is that his name?
Yeah,
That's
Javante Green.
is he still in the league? Is he still with the Bulls?
He might be with the Bulls still, yeah. But yeah, I
Oh,
mean, people just
yeah.
want to overlook that some of these situations that Tatum was in was not great, and he had to be the top guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that slander is coming from. Again, I think it's just people that want to clown on him for a couple years back, which, like I said, he has alluded to. It's just absolutely stupid. You alluded to it. My kind of what I would do if I was voting on this. I'm with you. Jokic would be one because it's one of those things where it's like it's Jokic, and then the drop off is just massive. Great players, but Jokic again is just on his own level when he's going right. Shea at 2, I'd put Tatum at 3, Anthony Edwards at 4 for me. I'd put Brunson up at 5 because again, he's been the main reason I think why that Knicks team has been so good this
hmm
year, and he has jumped to another level these last couple of years. So I think he deserves some credit there. Again, Giannis and Luka, the stats are great, but the teams they're on aren't. So I'm going to penalize them for that. 6 and 7 for me. Halliburton, fringe. I'm again, his stats aren't as great as Luka's and Giannis's, so that's the reason why I can't put him above them.
The
Um,
11.7 assists is pretty wild
I didn't know
though
he was
per
leading the league
game.
in assists when I looked this up the other day. So averaging a double double and leading the league in assists, pretty good. Again, one of the
Shooting
main
almost
reasons.
50% from the field, 40
Yeah,
from
he's
three.
he's been one of the guys that I mean he's been good. So I'm not going to say maybe he's in the candidacy for most improved, but definitely his best year of his career by far. Again, you kind of knock him because the Pacers are only a 6 seeds. That's where I think he falls off a little bit.
I
Um,
just think that's kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about a little bit.
mhm.
That team's maybe the 10 seed without him.
Absolutely,
Like
yeah. Very good point. Yep. He's another one that that
that's
like
where
if you're going off
the
of the
nuance comes
definition
into
of
it.
like what an MVP should be, like most valuable to your team, you just said it. Like he goes out with any sort of injury for a long time. The Pacers, they've been good. Can they keep it up without him? Probably not. I mean, they survived an injury with him a little bit earlier in the year.
Mhm.
But you
Was
lose him
that
for
the
the
game
rest
he
of the
got
year.
hurt?
That's right, you were.
Was, yeah. Or
Yep.
the game. No, I was at that game.
No, the game he came back because he got hurt in Indiana, I think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it
Yep.
was. That's where my
Okay.
confusion lied. Thank you.
It's okay. But yeah, like you said, if they lose him, they definitely fall to a play-in type of situation because they are not that good without him. And then to finish it off, like Donovan Mitchell 9, Kawhi Leonard 10, Sabonis has been good again, averaging
Very
double
good.
double. But the stats just aren't going to compete with some of these guys, so I have him at 11. And Durant's been fine, but again, like these are typical Kevin Durant numbers, so I'm not going to put him over some of these guys that have elevated their play, like the Brunsons, the Halliburtons of the world.
I
Can't
think I
do it.
would put Sabonis over Kawhi.
I might. I went back and forth with it, but again, it's like then you look at it like Sabonis is on the eighth. The Kings are the eighth seed. They've underperformed drastically compared to last year. I think they were the 1 seed last year, maybe the 2. Um, Kawhi again, Clippers. I finally kind of put it all together. They stayed healthy. They are playing like they should have played. These last couple of years, being the 3 seed and playing pretty well. So if he stays healthy, that whole team stays healthy. Clippers could maybe make a run, but again, it is the playoffs, and we've seen what the Clippers do. When they get into the playoffs and in crunch time and in
hmm
years past. Um,
Sure do.
but it's crazy the slander that Tatum has gotten for kind of stupid reasons. So it'll be interesting to see where he kind of finishes out the year. If maybe he sees this and it fuels him a little bit. In reality, though, like, I don't know if I don't want this to. I don't think it's going to because I think again we've seen some really good growth from Tatum this year. But there's just a part of me in the back of my mind. It's like, I hope he doesn't see this and is like, well, now I need to come out and average 30 to try to boost my MVP candidacy. And, maybe the assists go down a little bit, which fun fact, I don't know if you knew this. I didn't until I looked it up the other night. Since he's been in the league, every year his assist total has gone up. So that's been obviously pretty good to see, again, showing the leader that he has kind of blossomed into, and more of the facilitator role, stuff like that. So again, little bit of that in the back of my mind, that just don't let this affect you too much and kind of blur your vision towards the bigger goal. But I think we've seen from Tatum before, he has said it, like he wants to play for championships. Like he's not all about the individual awards, which has been good to see as well. So again, maybe he can sneak in the last couple weeks of the year, maybe make a little bit of a run at it. But I think it's Jokic's to lose at this point, especially with Embiid out for the remainder of the year, it looks like, or whenever I don't know when he's due back, if at all. Be interesting to see if Tatum can make a run at it. But as we've seen before or said before, like if you have to kind of forego an MVP award to go for the bigger goal, I'm not gonna have too much of a problem with that. I don't think Tatum will either.
Me neither. I think you summed it up very well, sir.
Thank you.
Alrighty. I think that wraps it up for basketball.
Yeah, not much to talk about when the Celtics have been off for almost a week and a half. So
we found some good topics.
Absolutely.
The Bruins are well, not good. Certainly not good.
They've been stinking it up.
They've been stinking it up. I think they've lost 5 of their last 7. Started in Seattle on the 15th, a 4-1 loss to a bad Kraken team. A Kraken team that could be better than their record shows, I'll say, but definitely not a great team this year. They're 32-12-10. Jeremy Swayman stopped 22-25. They outshot them 37-26. Definitely tried. At least I won $90 on Pastrnak, first goal scorer at any time. It was the only goal. If I could have bet him only goal, maybe I would have if I knew this was going to happen. Not quite as bad as Washington or Calgary, but still bad. Kind of had a similar aura to it. The Everly goal, just not able to pick him up in time, just bad defense. Hate goals like this when, a defenseman trips on the blue line, leads to a 3-on-1. Just, Eli Tolvin is not burying that. Matty Benier scores against the hometown fans, which is cool. As a South Shore guy, I imagine he was pretty pumped. And Jared McCann wraps it up with an empty netter and a pretty forgettable one here. Potential trade partner, I will say, Alexander Wenberg, Jordan Eberle maybe. So watch that. Don't think they'll end up with Eberle, but I think they could show some interest. And they do have interest in Wenberg, apparently. LA has been quite bad. But they beat the Bruins 5-4 in OT. Wait, I said 32-12-10 was the Kraken's record, not realizing that was the Bruins record after this. Correction.
Correct.
Yep.
It's okay. I didn't catch you either.
It's okay.
Falling asleep at the wheel there with that one.
We're all good.
It's all right.
32-12-11 now at this point. 5-4 loss in OT. Ullmark stops 30 of 35. They outshoot the Kings 35-32, dominated them on the dot, 64.3%. I'm in a weird spot with Linus Ullmark. I'm not screaming to trade him, but
he loves self-sabotaging the Bruins, as we've talked about these last couple of games, couple of own goals or.
He lately makes these weird decisions in the net where he'll sprawl out every once in a while when he doesn't need to. He looks like he's hurt to me. Kind of similar to late last season when he was battling a little bit.
Mm-hmm. You've been saying this since he came back. He just never really has looked right. Maybe I don't know if it's a confidence thing or, like you said, maybe he's still trying to play through something.
I'd be shocked if that guy lacked confidence.
True, yeah.
If he helps you get a deal done for a guy like Noah Hannafin on a team that might trade Jacob Markstrom and wants to replace him in this scenario, albeit potentially unlikely, I would do it. But I don't think they will. And he has trade protection, and I think if it happens in the offseason. But I'll just throw that out there.
Okay.
We'll talk about Noah Hannafin in a little while. JVR got them going in this one, though. Pretty good effort early on. Couple JVR goals. It's really as simple as that. He scores close to the net. That's what they brought him in for. Second one was a good response to the goal by Matt Roy. This past week, if you're a defenseman without a lot of goals, it was a good week to play the Bruins. Gavrikov, Roy, Brand Clark, lots of defensemen without a lot of goals scoring. So if you're a defenseman, you had a good time playing the Bruins probably. What goal am I referring? The Roy goal. I forgot to mention here. The Roy goal was goofy because it was a weird broken play. And I think there was goalie interference. And to my knowledge, there wasn't really much of a scuttlebutt about it. But I digress. Great first goal for Anthony Richard. Put it right under the bar. Gavrikov, speaking of him, his goal went in off of Shattenkirk. And I had a real problem with this play for Shattenkirk because he goes into the corner half-assed. Don't know if he was at the end of the shift, but try a little harder, empty the tank. Then he drifts to the front of the net to make a play or try to make a play that hits off his ass and goes in. I'm all set with Kevin Shattenkirk for now. I would like to see an extended absence from the lineup of potentially 2 to 3 games for him. I think the luster is wearing off.
I think
First
it
half of
has
the
worn
year,
off. It's
not not the best
it's gone.
skater, but in the he moved pucks well. He contributed a little bit on offense. Was a decent second power play unit option every once in a while. Now he's just not good, and I have a problem with that, especially when you have Mason Lohrei in the minors no longer, and Parker Wotherspoon. We need to adjust the whole Grizzly Forbert Shattenkirk problem and get Forbert and Shattenkirk out of the lineup more often, please. But the Hampus Lindholm week-to-week injury will affect that a little bit. And hopefully, I'm not saying I hope the Bruins play bad defensively. Hopefully, this makes them realize with Lindholm out that they need a left shot defenseman more so than they might think right now, because they do. Yeah, he sucked on that goal. He sucked in this game.
He has sucked just in general, if you
Yeah,
ask me. We talked about this during
pretty
I think the
much.
Dallas game.
I just had less of a problem when it wasn't becoming a real
Fair.
noticeable problem and
Yep.
leading to goals to the other team. I feel like that wasn't really a huge thing in the first half of the season, but Alex Laferriere just walks in untouched for a goal. Didn't like that. Frederick gives them a late lead, 15th of the season for him, and they blow it. Sometimes you can just set your watch to the Bruins in a high intensity situation in the last couple of minutes, blowing it. And I'm gonna say it. A lot of times it's Omar and net, from my memory.
Yep.
I hate to be anti-Omar, but his stats haven't been horrible lately for the most part. But he's in a
We
funk.
said it
He
watching
is.
this game though. Something is clearly up with him. Like he's not right or something. Like you have alluded to a couple times that you still think he's hurt. I'm right there with you because this is you said it. He's not a not confident guy. So it's something else has to be messing with him. And I think maybe came back from his injury a little too quick. I don't know if that was. I don't think they rushed him back. But maybe a guy that could have dealt with sitting out a game or two more, or just maybe give some weight to Swayman a little bit more than they have been. Or Swayman's played a decent amount, so I'm not going to say that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I getcha. It's just they're in a weird spot. They won't trade him before the deadline, but if they were to in the right deal, I wouldn't be opposed because I think it's inevitable that he's not on this team in the fall. And in overtime, talking about another defenseman that's been pretty bad, that Montgomery still said he has a lot of confidence in. Understandably so. You're not going to tear apart your guy coming off an injury 2 weeks ago. Just a horrible, horrible, horrible clearing attempt by Derek Forbert. Multiple guys on the wall. First guy gets it. Eventually ends up out front to Ante Kopitar, who everybody on the ice forgot about. The guy who's
one of
the
the
Hall of
few
Famer.
guys. Yeah, I don't know. I was just gonna say that one of the few guys I feel like that you should be, or I don't know how you can forget about. This guy's been pretty damn good over his career. He's right up there. Obviously, not Sulky related, but he's been their Bergeron for the most part. So
he absolutely has been. And look, I know they have an extra attacker, but get Kopitar still.
Yeah, just
It's
again,
that simple.
find that guy.
Then it just ends in horrible, somewhat predictable fashion.
Very predictable.
Maybe not in the fashion it happened, but Brand Clark, 8th round pick 2 drafts ago, springs himself out of the box on a breakaway for his first NHL goal. And it was fast. It was a good move. I think Linus Ullmark needs to save that. I'm sorry. I do.
He completely undressed him though on that. That was you
I think he
think
needs to save
otherwise?
that.
It was one of those things where when I was watching it, I'm like, as soon as Clark got that puck, this game's over. Like you said it, you could see it after they blew it late. That's how I feel with this team right now. Like, and I'm surprised that the Dallas game ended up being a win because I think I texted it to you or said it to somebody else that like I feel like once this team gets into overtime or a shootout, I feel like you could bank on a Bruins loss almost, and you could bank on it in a stupid way, like the breakaway right out of the penalty box for Clark in the LA game. But like you said, it's a weird situation. It has not been good, but I
Mhm.
don't know. Like we talked about it, I think during the Dallas game, what we think they should. I'm sure you're gonna get into it later. Like what we think they should do to kind of maybe right the ship a little bit here. But just the play of late has not been great. I know the Dallas win was a nice one the other night, but not a game that I still instill a lot of confidence in this team. And as of right now,
Yeah. I had an idea if Lindholm wasn't going to be out, what I'd like the defensive core to look like. Lowry, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Grizzly, Wotherspoon. That's your top six.
okay.
Now, still Lowry, McAvoy. Grizzly needs to play on the third pair. I'm sorry. Like, it needs to change. It'll be
They
easier
need
for
to
him.
find another defenseman so he can
He
go. Like
will
he
he
sucks.
will play better on the third pairing, I promise.
Okay, I'll hold you to that promise because
I think at
I
this
texted
point,
you on the Dallas game. Like I have had it up to here with Matt Grizzlick. Like I'm out on
yeah,
Matt Grizzlick moving forward because it is just not
it's a good way
working
to
anymore.
shelter him. Shelter him. When he was
Okay.
at his best, before he was very consistently on McAvoy's pair, he was sheltered on the third pair, and it worked. And it's not going to be that good this time. But I think if you're not signing a guy like Noah Hanifin long term, Mason Lowry is your best long term bet on McAvoy's left. So you should start giving him some time, especially with Lindholm week to week. If say Lowry's up for a week, giving him a full week of games or so, maybe week and a half, on McAvoy's left could be very good for his confidence and development, and he could thrive. And maybe if Lindholm comes back and Lowry plays really well, Lowry stays, somebody goes on waivers or gets traded.
Yeah, I don't hate
Just
that.
saying. Um, Unlikely. I don't think they'll waive a guy like Forbert. I don't think they do it to Shattenkirk either, but I wouldn't be opposed if they did. Um, but yeah, with the state now, I would like to see Lowry on the top pair, give him that audition. He's played there a little bit before, looked fine. Also had bad moments, but I think he grew before he went down to Providence most recently and looked good. So then you got Waterspoon and Carlo. Please, for the love of God, do not put Grizzlick or Forbert with Carlo. Forbert with Carlo would give me a conniption because
That's
Brendan Carlo
waiting for
would be
disaster.
so handicapped by him. It would be freaking phenomenally bad. Waterspoon is a safe option. I think he will be fine with Brendan Carlo. Please listen to me, Bruins. And then Grizzlick and Shattenkirk. That's it. Maybe even
That's
call Ian
gross
Mitchell up.
pairing.
I'd rather watch Ian Mitchell, or I'd rather watch Alec Regula get called up
Are
and
they
play on the
tough
right
guys?
side.
I can't remember Ian Mitchell. Are they because this is
No.
no okay because
Regula's big though. Regula's 6'4", but he's like 23. They got him in
okay.
the Taylor Hall salary dump.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's my little rant there. Dallas. This game was preposterous in many ways. The Bruins should not have won this game. Jeremy Swayman played the best game of his career, besides maybe that shutout that I weirdly have a very specific memory of in Nashville, where he saved 42 shots.
Yeah, he was awesome in that game. Now that you said Nashville, I remember exactly what game you're
mhm.
talking about.
Yep. They won 4-3 in a shootout, though. 33, 12, and 11 now. Swayman stops 43 of 46. They outshoot the Stars, or they get outshot
Got
by the Stars
outshot, yeah.
46-30. I'll say this: the only good players on the team consistently, a little bit different when Pasternak buries one at the end. I don't think he was good enough all game.
No, he was not.
The
He didn't
best
have a
players
shot. I
on the
texted
ice.
you really quick. Sorry, he didn't have a shot
No,
on
no,
goal until
you had.
until that goal. I jinxed it. Yeah,
Yep,
points for
you
me.
did.
I'm
You
taking this
did.
win. I'm the reason why the Bruins won this game.
You really did. The best players on the ice were Jesper Boquist, who was the best player on the team, in my opinion, besides Swayman. Justin Brazeau, who just signed an
Very
entry
good in
level deal
his
for 2
debut.
years. Great story. A little bit of ECHL time, 3 years in Providence. got cast aside by the Toronto Marlies, who signed him out of junior. He scored a shit ton of goals in junior for the North Bay, I think. Um, Great debut, like active, physical, around the net. Like he's 6'5", 220. That's what he should do. He did. Um, really good game for him. I love Anthony Richard at this rate. I would like him on the fourth line for the rest of the season as long as he keeps playing like this. You
Yeah,
know,
he's been a great,
guy that's
great
had to
pickup,
put
great
in
find.
has had to put in the work in the AHL for a few years. 27 years old, kind of hoping for this opportunity. He's thriving with it. I think he has earned it, and I think he will continue to because he plays when he's at top speed. He is very, very fast, which I love. That horrible Capitals game I talked about it last week had 9 hits. I love the way he plays. I love how physically he plays. Frederick was good. I think he also, played with Boquist, Brazil, Richard a little bit, moving around, I feel like. And Jeremy Swayman was awesome. Boquist and Brazil in the first goal out there. Wonder how much they played together in Providence. I thought about this during the game. They're both down there for a while. Could have some previous familiarity. Kevin Shattenkirk, again, the Wyatt Johnson goal, like gives him a pretty pedestrian two-hand. You're not going to get a penalty unless you're absolutely like Paul Bunyaning
Hammering
somebody
a guy, yeah.
with two hands. You can give like a little hard two-hand and probably get away with it. This was just boom. Johnson tips it. Swayman can't stop it. Like all on Shattenkirk, in my opinion. Second one, Swayman screened and frozen on the Suter goal. He froze a little bit. Maybe Swayman could have saved this, but I'm not, I don't have the direct line of sight from his mask, so I don't really know. Maybe he could have saved it, but got frozen. A little bit of traffic. Great feed from Boquist to Brazil on his first goal. That was awesome. They were pumped. The Esa Lindell goal disturbed me because Esa Lindell is not known for his goal scoring. Not like a bad player in the offensive zone, but to let a guy like him walk in and do that was pretty annoying. So didn't love that. Pasta thankfully responded late, had a little bit of a quiet game, just a vintage Pasta goal, nice pass from McAvoy, bing bang boom, super easy. Of course, Brad Marchand scored in the shootout because if it got that far and he was going to be there in a game like this, is the 1,000th game, which he also fought in. He was going to score. Like he's scored plenty of awesome shootout goals in the past too. McAvoy ended up ending it, and it comes back to Kevin Shattenkirk because why the hell was Kevin Shattenkirk, despite his amazing shootout percentage, your sixth shooter?
That's
In a
why.
game like this, in a stretch like this, if that is the reason you lose, the fan base is revolting. Don't
Oh,
think that's worth the risk.
it's the analytic
Ended up,
dorks coming into it.
yeah, ended up working out. Thankfully, they did not deserve to win this game. They really didn't. This was also the game Lindholm got hurt in. A little bit of an awkward collision, went down hard on his leg. Thankfully, it doesn't seem super serious, but I am a little worried that this could linger. It sucks. Hopefully he's not out too long. This team's just fundamentally broken right now. They are. They need to figure it out. I'm not gonna like deep dive into everything. I think we feel like we've dove into some issues already. Where are you at with this team?
Like I texted you during the game, they're fundamentally soft. And I think that leads into your broken. That's kind of why I asked those two defensemen that you referenced earlier, Mitchell and I can't remember the other one's name.
Regula.
Thank you. If I asked if they were tough guys, because like I texted you during this Dallas game, you alluded to a couple of the goals that were really head scratchers of just no. And it isn't even just a Dallas game. This has been happening during the losing streak, left and right. I jokingly texted you, is there like a goon the Bruins could get out there really for really cheap, either a trade or signing or whatnot, because they need someone not to go out there and run guys, but like protect the front of the net. You mentioned that some of these goals that have been scored are way too easy. I feel like we've seen games where like Swayman didn't get into it with somebody in this game, but I think he took a shot and kind of got back up and was in somebody's face. You saw Olmark, I can't remember what game it was, but the one he got fined for hitting the guy with his stick. Like right now, to me, it just right now to me, it just seems like that the two guys that are protecting the paint or also the paint, because you know what I'm talking about. The two guys that are doing that are Olmark and Swayman, and that's a problem for me. Like the fact that your goalies are getting, again, not run, but constantly getting contacted with, and there really hasn't been any sort of stopping it. I think McAvoy in the Dallas game, correct me if I was wrong, this was the one he kind of took a shot in the boards as well. Now, again, I'm not looking for people to run guys, but nothing came from that, I feel like. So I feel like just of late, you've had these situations where your goalies are getting hit. Some of your players are maybe taking cheap shots or taking bigger shots than you'd like them to take. And there really hasn't been any sort of repercussions for anybody. So like that's the problem with them for me right now.
Yeah.
It's just how just fundamentally soft they are. Like they're playing like a bunch of, for lack of a better term, bitches out there.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think of. Like you obviously think of the big bad Bruins and everything when you think of this team, and just tougher teams in the past. To me, they don't have a guy that's like that right now, or anyone that's going to play like that. I mean, Frederick can do it at times. Um, Martian obviously, like you said, got into a scrap in this one, but
Hmm.
there just hasn't been enough of like I feel like a fight back, and maybe that's why that you've seen this type of play of late. And like you said, I think it goes into the fact that you said they're fundamentally broken because that's the biggest thing for me. It's just the lack of toughness we're seeing out of them is glaringly surprising of late.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like the Marshawn thing real quick was like he's like, it's my 1,000th game. If somebody fucks with me, I'm gonna fight him.
I
Like
had the
just for fun.
same. I had the same. They showed the replay. I'm like, I don't know if he really wanted to take that fight
Yeah,
or
he
that
was like,
was
ah,
just
it's my
like, all right, you're
1,000th
hitting
game.
me. I'm just gonna do this. Just
Yeah.
that's funny because I
For the
kind
fans,
of had the
yeah.
same thought process too watching that.
Yeah, the Marshawn tribute, the highlight for me was the Krejci thing too, like don't let me
Mhm.
down. You mentioned what was the other thing he said?
He
He said
said, "I'm surprised you didn't catch it where he sees."
I
I
somehow didn't.
caught it right away where he's like, "I think of you like you're the turn into the best left winger in hockey." I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I think Alex Ovechkin
He
might have
is
some. He's up
overall.
there, absolutely. You think so overall?
Yeah, and that's
Okay,
partially because Nikita Kucherov is a right winger. Um, three zones, he is the best left winger in the league. I think.
okay,
I think he has been for a while. But you have an argument with the Ovi thing, like Ovi's got the goal scoring
yeah,
factor.
yep.
So it
But
just
I just
depends
found
on
it
the
funny. I'm
athlete.
like,
I
I
think.
get where Krejci's coming
Um,
from there, but like,
mhm,
here's a guy
yeah,
that
I
might
mean
have something to say about
Krejci's a
that.
low key goofy guy.
Absolutely.
So, um, you were asking about toughness over the phone when we were texting. In terms of realistic conditions, I like Jake Middleton, and he can provide some toughness. And also Patrick Maroon, who I've talked about a lot. Love that package deal idea. If I had to throw out some other names, I'm looking at Ottawa. Mark Kostelic, fourth line center. Not a complete goon, but fights a lot. Pretty tough.
Mhm.
Hits. I think he's about 6'2". Zach McEwen, who's been sent down. If you want a guy that is literally terrible and fights people, like so bad, but
Mhm.
he fights people and hits, go ahead. He's in the AHL. You probably get him for future considerations. Um, More feasible options are Patrick Maroon, like in terms of impact.
Mhm.
Patrick Maroon, Mark Kostelic, or if Philly is willing to trade him, Nick Delorier. Nick Delorier,
Okay.
complete goon, one of the best fighters in the league. Philly's kind of in like a hybrid mode. Like they want to try and make the playoffs, but they're listening to offers on guys like Scott Lawton, Nick Sealer, Sean Walker, a few guys on that roster.
Mhm.
So they're kind of like seeing what's out there in case they fall off. But Scott Lawton can play tough too, but I don't think they're trading for him. He's got 3 years, 3.1 million.
Probably not. And like I said, when I
That's
say
a little
goon,
tough
I don't
contract.
mean like you
Yeah,
know this. Like I don't mean like Matt Cook
realistic
gonna run
options.
people, but
Realistic options are Delorier, Kostelic, and Maroon. I think
gotcha.
Maroon's not as much of a goon at this point, but he'll
Mhm.
fight and he'll just chirp
You
and
just
like
need like
yeah.
to me, it's just
Patrick
that
Maroon is
presence.
the perfect fourth liner for this team. I will
Yeah, that's
reiterate that.
that's kind of the point I was gonna make. It's like I don't even need a guy to fight. I just need someone like a him, like a Ryan Reese
Yeah,
type of guy.
like
That if something's going on out
oh
there, you're
Ryan
gonna
Reeves is horrible now.
well, just the toughness factor of or the oh shit that I forgot they have Ryan Reeves or they have Pat Maroon. Or
So
if I do something wrong here, he's probably gonna come for me later on in this game.
yeah, I don't know if you've seen, but the Ryan Reeves stuff is really funny with his comments about like, oh, it wouldn't happen in this, like it wouldn't
You
happen in
mentioned
that,
yeah something I
and
remember a
like
while
he
back
got
something
laid
about
out
this.
by Nathan Walker, who's like
Yeah,
five
yep.
foot eight, and like everybody's like, wouldn't have happened if Reeves was on the ice. Like, he's kind of made
Instant
himself into
karma.
a tool. Like I like the guy, but he's kind of become a tool, kind of
Okay,
soured on people. Um,
become a meme at this
I'm
point.
yeah, I definitely don't like him as much as I used to. Um, yeah, if you want toughness, those are a few guys. Don't really have a ton off the dome right now,
Fair,
but
just wanted to bring it
uh,
up.
they do need toughness. They do, and part of he's not always gonna hop in and fight or always hop in and talk shit. But Lauko's been out of the lineup a few times lately, so
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what Anthony Richard's background is like, but he's scrappy. Maybe he could throw the gloves down. I'm not asking him to. Not sure what Brazeau is a big guy did in terms of the fighting down there, but We'll see. I do think I would like to see someone added depth-wise that can fight a little more,
Mhm.
because as much as you can call on Frederick for it, you kind of don't want Frederick at this point
Yeah,
doing it all the
exactly.
time.
Frederick's at the point in his career now where we
He's
talked
like you're
about it
losing
before
an
with his
impact
skill
player
set. Absolutely.
for
Yep.
5 minutes plus. Um, Edmonton, I have it as live in the outline next to it. It is not live. I didn't factor in the whole 10 o'clock thing.
I forgot it was, yeah, late
Yeah,
tonight too. Yep.
I edited what you said. You said like up and coming or something,
Hmm.
or something tonight. 33-18-1, 67 points. We know the deal with the Oilers. Connor McDavid has 83 points in 50 games, um, turning it up for that Hart Trophy big time. It was kind of a McKinnon and Kucherov's race for a while, or anyone else you want to throw there, Pasternak. Um, we know the deal. It's going to be a really tough game in Edmonton tonight, so I will see what happens. David Pasternak scored 9 times in his career against Edmonton, though, and I believe 14 games, so hopefully he can score some more. Nazem Kadri and the Calgary Flames will host the Bruins on the 22nd. They're 26-25-5, sixth in the Pacific. Kadri leads them in scoring at 48 and 56. We've seen them a lot lately. Not a whole lot to elaborate on. A team that will look a lot different in a couple weeks after the deadline. Vancouver, another team we've seen a lot recently. 37-15-6. First in the Pacific, JT Miller paces them on the score sheet. 58 points or 75 points in 58 games, and they've lost 3 straight. So is this the start of a little bit of a coming back down to earth for the Canucks? I don't think so, but they're on a little bit of a streak. If this keeps up, maybe the Bruins can feast. But I think it'll be tough in Vancouver against a team that you shellacked, not shellacked, but pretty close in your home barn a couple weeks ago.
Gonna be out for some
And then you got
revenge, I
Seattle
think.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're seeing a bunch of teams over and over again lately. Seattle
True.
again.
Yeah, it doesn't help
Um,
either.
yeah, 23-21-11, 57 points. Fifth in the Pacific. Jared McCann is their leading scorer with 24, 17, and 41 and 57 games. That's the upcoming week. The end of February Western Conference trip. Some other notes. Charlie McAvoy, very much still elite. I feel like his name hasn't been out there as much as it's been in the past in terms of like the big praise, but he's still been excellent. At shutdown line, Corey Sinajder, don't know how to say this guy's last name, but he's a great follow. Does a lot of the charts and like heavy analytic stuff. This is a chart of 5-on-5 defensive zone retrievals and exits. Charlie McAvoy has the most consistently great results with turning defensive zone retrievals into exits since I started tracking this 3 years ago. Adam Fox is the other one. So Charlie McAvoy turns defense into the breakout into offense better than anyone this guy has tracked. He tracks everybody in the past 3 years. So that's pretty good. One of the bigger analytics guys in the hockey community. So you know what ain't fluff. Matthew Potro was placed on long-term IR. He's done. We know that for
Not
the season.
surprising. Yep.
Mason Lohrau's called up. Lindholm is week to week. We got some more details on Lohrau's situation when he took a skate laceration on his left quad on February 3rd against Bridgeport. He needed 20 stitches for that and still needs some dental work from that puck he took, I believe, actually against the Stars,
Jesus.
to the mouth. So, yeah,
Guys can't catch
kid's
a break.
battling.
Yeah.
He's battling. Like I said earlier, I hope Lohrau really shows out to motivate them to keep him around and or trade someone in order to make it easier to keep him around. We got a concerning development from TSN's insider trading panel last night that Noah Hanifin, with the freed up money from the Mikhail Sergachev injury leading to him in long-term IR, could make him an option for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Eat that.
Hate that. He wants to sign south of the border when that time comes. So that keeps the Bruins obviously in it. And like I said, I think if the Bruins put on the right offer, he will sign here. I don't think the Bruins should or will lowball him if they're compelled to sign him. But if he ends up in Tampa, that sucks a lot.
It does. Yep.
And the Bruins, unless they really, really don't want him there, I don't know if they're going to outbid them because I think the Bruins might kind of make an offer and wait till the summer and go for someone cheaper because they need to keep around some assets. Noah Hanifin is going to cost a similar package to what they gave up for Hampus Lindholm, which in retrospect isn't a ton. Like they gave up picks, they gave up Urho Vakanainen. Like I think there's one piece I'm forgetting. John Moore. maybe another piece. I don't think you can do that again though, especially for a guy like you could use with McAvoy in the future. But like we said last week, if you're paying Lindholm 8 next year, you're paying McAvoy 9.5, you're paying Brandon Carlo 4.1 and Lindholm 6.5. That's a lot on your defense. So you have to weigh that. Um, but man, I really hope if it's not Boston, he ends up somewhere besides Tampa. That's just where I'm at there. And Michael Rasmussen in Detroit signed a 4-year, $12.8 million extension with them. How do you feel about the whole Hannafin thing? I think I know the answer, but
Yeah, I'm not too hyped on him going to Tampa if that's the case. I would rather the Bruins. Obviously, they're not going to step in and make a trade probably this season, like you said. But I don't know. You're more in tune with this stuff than I am when it comes to
hmm.
contract wise and all that type of stuff. So I'm kind of just in wait and
Yeah.
see mode to see what happens. But seeing
The
Tampa's name
other,
pop up is very scary because we've seen them manipulate, and it's not that they're manipulating in this case, but the salary cap and the injury, long term injury
mhm.
stuff like that. So we've seen them kind of this rear its ugly head with Tampa before, and it worked out for them.
The tough thing with Hannafin too is there's the Lightning, the Panthers are expected to be in. I don't know if they've talked
I
to
hate that too.
Calgary. The Leafs have interest in him and Tanev. Don't know if
Really
they can
hate
make it
that.
work. Hate that as well. Let's look at some other teams. The Rangers, no. Hurricanes, no. Flyers, no. Devils, I think the Devils, if they really swung for the fences, could land Markstrom and Hannafin,
Jesus.
if not one of them. I think they should be all over Hannafin. I think if you're not going Markstrom and Hannafin, you got to go all in if you're the Devils this year, I think,
Mhm.
because you need it long term and you need it now. Get John Gibson and Noah Hannafin or Markstrom and Hannafin. I think John Gibson should be a no-brainer for them. I think UC Saros should be on their map as well. The Devils need a goalie for the long term, and right now, Nico Dawes is very good, young goalie. Akira Schmid, that's worn off, and Vitek Vanacek is hurt. So just a little bit of a little bit of mini trade talk there. Um, yeah, just don't want Hannafin to end up in Tampa. That's really what it comes
It's
down
just,
to.
yeah, in the
But
end.
the south of the border alternatives, more realistic ones, are also not great. At this point, I hope he ends up with New Jersey if it's not going to be Boston or
Mm.
somewhere in the west, south of the border somehow, um, being the Canadian border. Ah, boy. Man, that's really a nightmare, huh?
Yeah, that's not the situation you
Don't
would
like
want for
that.
sure.
No, no, no. But at the same time, I don't know if he'd sign with Tampa long term. So if they give up a lot for him and get bounced, that'd be pretty funny.
It would
Tampa,
be.
if Florida did the same, if Toronto did the same, it'd be funny. But I'd rather just not see it happen.
Mhm. I'm right there with you.
Alrighty. Red Sox, Ryan.
They're doing things. They're pissing people off
Mm,
again, which is no
mm.
surprise to the Boston Red Sox. And maybe we're starting to see a revolt from some players, some coaches. Maybe interesting to see how that plays out. But we'll start with something I feel like maybe we missed, depending on when this happened last week. Not that it's a major signing, but it is a typical Red Sox signing. Last week they ended up signing Michael Fulmer to what I
Ryan,
believe. What's up?
can I cut you off?
Sure.
I did not know they did this until I looked at the outline today.
Fair enough. They only signed him to a minor league deal, and it's the typical 2-year James Paxton
Mm-hmm.
type of deal again. Because
Yep,
Michael
the guy
Fulmer will
that's
miss
been
the
hurt a million
entire.
times.
Yep, Michael Fulmer will miss the entire 2024 season rehabbing from surgery on his UCL. Obviously got hurt last year. Wasn't terrible with the Cubs last year. This is a signing I don't necessarily hate. Again, you get some pitching depth. You get a guy that has had some success in the past. Again, it's a typical Red Sox trying to make something out of a guy that has maybe fallen off a little bit. But again, he wasn't terrible last year before getting hurt. 2023, 58 games, 3-5 with a 442, 57 innings of work, 65 Ks. Opponents hit 235 against him when he pitched out of the bullpen for the Cubs. Again, not the flashes of numbers, but definitely you could find worse. The one troubling thing, though, that comes with Michael Fulmer, as I mentioned, the injury he currently has. This was from Steve Adams of MLB Trade Rumors, put out the entire laundry list of injuries that Michael Fulmer has had in his career, with this quote saying, quote, since 2018, Fulmer has undergone ulnar nerve transposition surgery, meniscus surgery in his right knee, Tommy John surgery, and is now a revision of that original ligament repair on his pitching elbow. That doesn't include oblique, shoulder, and back strains that have all sent him to the injured list for various stints over the past 6 years. Since pitching 323 and two-thirds innings of 3.45 ERA ball over his first two MLB seasons combined, Fulmer has pitched a total of just 350 and a third MLB frames in the past 6 seasons. So it is a guy that is coming with a ton of injury history. Again, a ton of upside. A former rookie of the year with the Tigers, pitched pretty well for them. But again, injuries kind of derailed his career there. He's bounced around a little bit with the Twins, the Cubs. And again, got off to a decent start last year, but the injuries piled up and he kind of fell off and then obviously missed the majority of last year. We'll miss all of this year again. So you kind of alluded to your thoughts on this, not knowing they had him until maybe, would you look at the outline, like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago? So
Probably 1 o'clock.
yeah, this is a breaking development for you, but from maybe the stuff you know about him or just have kind of seen, I don't know how much you looked up stat wise, or maybe you want to focus on the injury history. What are your thoughts on this signing, if you have any?
No, it's really just a tremendously Red Sox signing, and
Mhm.
the name still carries a little bit of weight to me because I remember the hype around him, not
Yep.
because I think he's going to be awesome when he's healthy here.
Mhm.
They just did it because this is what they do. They love to
He
bargain bin shop.
they do, but I think like you said, the name does carry some weight. He is a better if he can get back and get healthy. I would much rather see them take a chance on him than some of the stiffs that I can't remember their names. The guy that they brought in that was shelled by who was it? Was it Houston, Toronto, whatever guy came out and pitched like 7 innings and gave up 15 runs, whatever it was. Um, or I can't even remember half the stiffs they had pitched for him last year. But like people who watched the Red Sox last year know the names I'm talking about. One of the guys I got for the Giants, another crappy reliever. Would rather see Fulmer be given a chance than some of these other bargain bin guys that they might pick up halfway through the season. So I'm not too upset by this move. But again, like you said, it is such a Red Sox move that they did it twice in the same offseason and
Mhm.
twice in the same week. We'll get to the other signing of an injured
I
player
like
who
the other one.
I do too, but it's a guy who may not pitch this year. There was a move sandwich in between both of them, though. We'll get to that one in a second. The surprising one was John Schreiber, traded to the Kansas City Royals. Schreiber was a name that did come up in trade rumors or was talked about maybe as a bullpen piece to move, but not as much as guys like Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin, mainly because those guys would have saved you more money. Because as we know, the Red Sox, they're in it for saving money at this point. So that was kind of the interesting thing about the Schreiber trade. It only freed up right around 1.175 million in cap space. And the interesting thing was too, which was kind of the head scratcher for a lot of people, was they traded a guy that was under team control through the end of the 2026 season. Again, when you heard all the rumors of, maybe trading an expiring contract like Kenley Jansen or Chris Martin, they don't end up doing that. Not yet. You got to think those moves are coming at some point this year, maybe the trade deadline. But Schreiber going was an interesting one that I was upset with at the time when it happened, because again, you're trading for a guy who was pretty good out of the bullpen, and did have team years of control left. But as we know, the Red Sox, they're not competing for this year, no matter if they tell you they are or not. Um, Doing a deeper dive, looking into it a little bit more. The pitching prospect they got back in the name of David Sandlin does appear to be a decent prospect. I'm trying to find his stats here that I had. Uh, some background on Sandlin, 2022, 11th round pick who spent last year in single A and high A, 12 games in single A, 12 games started 4-1 with a 3.38 ERA, 79 Ks and 58 and 2/3. Only pitched 2 games in high A, had a 4.50 ERA and 8 innings of work. A tweet from Pete Abraham. He had a quick scouting report on David Sandlin. Strikeout stuff, needs to command it. Kansas City player development staff saw him as a mid rotation starter, and then some prospect rankings on it that people dug up. He varied within the Royals system. Baseball America had him as the number 20 prospect in the organization, but Kylie McDaniel on ESPN Baseball Insider, he had him at number 5, and Keith Law had him at number 7. So again, there's some variation there. Take it with a grain of salt because again, you tend to see a lot of variation. I feel like when it comes to prospect rankings. But again, taking a step back, the fact that you were able to get a young, controllable starter that apparently Craig Breslow seems to have a liking with. I don't know why he would have traded for him if he didn't. I'm not too mad about this deal. Again, looking at it from a long scope of things, like they're not going to compete this year. Schreiber took a dip last year, was hurt for a couple of months, so maybe the shine has worn off on him a little bit. Maybe not the worst thing trading this guy. You get a decent little prospect back. As we know, they need starting pitching depth in the organization. So I've kind of given my spiel here, rambled for a little bit. What were your thoughts on this move when it happened? And if you kind of had the same thought process I did, maybe taking a step back. This isn't the worst move on the planet.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed at first because I kind of forgot about how Schreiber kind of fell off when he came back from an injury a little bit.
As did I. Yep.
Um, he's still a good player, but I've heard some people on Twitter say they really like people who know process like actually love this pitcher.
Mhm.
So that's whatever, but like I don't know. I hope this wasn't a big like cap move because it freed so little. But like it's whatever, I guess. Like the farm system does need arms in the pitching staff. So
Mhm.
I don't know. At the end of the world, it's like it's John Schreiber, good player, but like if I were to act like I'm super pissed about this at this point, it'd just be inauthentic. So
It's one of those things where it's like you see it with everything with the Red Sox now. It's like a knee jerk reaction of like, oh, they made another stupid move. Like you traded a guy that just worked for you, has been a nice find, and now he's gone for some prospect you never heard of. Because I think it doesn't matter what the Red Sox do unless they go out and make a move to sign like a Jordan Montgomery. I feel like every move that they do is going to piss you off in some way, shape, or form. And not just when I say you specifically, but Red Sox fans as a whole. Because I know that I texted you the other day that like everything they do and say now is just aggravating the crap out of me. Like even the good signings that we're gonna get to in a second, when bringing in a guy like Liam Hendricks, like everything they do has just been annoying and aggravating in some way. Um, but we'll touch on the Hendricks signing because you said at the start of it this is a deal you liked. This is one of the more surprising moves I think because this is one we really didn't hear anything about. And I honestly kind of forgot he was still available. Red Sox signed him Monday morning, but again, he may not pitch this entire season. Definitely will not pitch the first half. They're looking at maybe a trade deadline. Kind of funny how that lines up. You get Liam Hendricks back right around the trade deadline. You have some relievers that maybe you've thrown in some trade rumors here. He the other day apparently said that he is not gunning for Kenley Jansen's job or Chris Martin's job when he does return. He's not looking to, one up them or anything. Or I'm paraphrasing here, but I don't know. I see the writing on the wall rather. You sign a closer who's due back maybe towards the end of the season, trade deadline, maybe looking to move it to closer and Kenley Jansen. I kind of feel like the writing's on the wall for him. This is a guy and Hendricks you bring in to, if you want to move Jansen, move Martin, you have a little bit of leeway with an actual closer potentially coming back. But like I said you like this move. What were the reasons why, if you had, anything you wanted to talk about with Hendricks?
when they first got him, I didn't realize he was 35.
Mhm.
I thought he was younger, but I've heard good things about him over the years in like a shitty situation in Chicago with the White Sox.
Yep.
Um, I've just heard he's a good player. Like it's really that simple for me. So like
Mhm.
a guy I've heard consistently positive things about being signed for once is pretty nice. Um,
Yeah, right.
what would Liam Hendricks bring to a group? A lot of annoying sayings. Apparently, like I'm not here to fuck spiders. Um, it's an Australian colloquialism. That's like, are you here to
He
play
is
baseball? Well,
he
I'm
is
not here to
Australian
fuck
as
spiders.
Australian gets. Yep.
He's from Perth. I just checked. So, interesting. I'm gonna probably drop that in public now. I'm gonna say,
Fair
well, I'm
enough.
not here to fuck spiders. Um,
People are gonna look at you like, what the fuck are you talking about?
yeah, I don't know. I'll just have Liam Hendricks to blame if I get side eye.
The
So
one thing I'm hoping for too, really quick with him, if he's able to come back this year, is he will give some sort of enjoyability to, if that's even a word, to watch this team. Just for the fact that if he's out there pitching and maybe a hot mic catches him, because I don't know if you've seen the videos of him getting caught on hot mics, dropping F bombs and swearing his brains out on the mound.
nice,
So he is,
nice.
yeah, he
Psycho,
is. What's up?
psycho.
Oh, I was just gonna say he is a little bit of a psycho. Um, but
Good.
hey, again, if the Red Sox, if there's a team that could have used a good story or just a good overall person, obviously we know the deal with Liam Hendricks, coming back from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma last season, has battled cancer, survived cancer. So that's obviously a great story in itself. Everywhere you look has, like you said, if there's one positive you could have had, or a nice kind of signing, this is the one. Bringing a guy that obviously morale seems to be down with his team. I don't know if you saw the John Tomasi report when he got to spring training the other day that like he has never covered a team or been around a team that is just like the vibes around it is so negative, or he basically said something along the lines of that. So to bring Hendricks in, that's obviously a little bit of a pick me up, hopefully, just to have that guy around and his maybe bring the vibes up a little bit. But again, I don't know how much he's going to be able to save this team with kind of the other comments that have come out around the team since spring training has started. I don't know if there's any that have jumped off the page to you before I kind of dive into them here. Because there's been a lot. A lot has happened in the last 72 hours, beginning since the week has started, which is kind of crazy. But again, I'm going to stop rambling. Anything that you have kind of picked up on, if you've seen anything, on social media or heard anything these last couple of days.
I'm very happy that they are getting called out. Very happy. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know how you can't be. Um, Pedroia, in retrospect, is a guy I understand doing it, but I didn't see it coming.
Hmm.
I feel
Do
like
you believe it?
the former player who's been doing it lately is Papelbon a lot.
Yep.
Do I believe it? Is there a reason I shouldn't that I missed?
because it's the Red Sox, and I don't know, like, and it's Sam
I
Kennedy saying
believe
it.
it.
Like,
I believe it from Pedroia. He's a
okay.
guy that doesn't seem like a bullshitter to me, and I could, if anyone, really, I could absolutely see it being him. But at the same time, I could see Sam Kennedy fluffing a little bit. Um,
I just don't get how
yeah,
he took it
this
as such a
like
positive. Like,
I don't know, like he just maybe he just knows the fan base hates him so much. He's like, yeah, like,
let's just
yeah,
play into it
yeah,
so
okay,
you hate him worse.
Justin
Like,
Justin told us to do this.
uh,
Um, where did I want to go with this? Where do I want to go with
I don't
this? Do I
know.
have anything else to add? I don't think I
I
do.
can jump in with it if you want. I'd
Yeah,
jump
go
back.
ahead.
I'll
Go
be on the
ahead.
opposite side because I
You'll get
hated
my
it.
juices flowing.
I absolutely hated it when it came
Oh,
out.
I did
And
too.
maybe it's just the fact that, like I've said numerous times before, I think I texted you when it happens. Just anything that comes out of Sam Kennedy's mouth at this point pisses me off because people
It
know they've heard
happened
it.
so quick. Was Sam Kennedy always this public facing? Or is this a new development?
I mean, he's been the spokesperson because it happened again. That was the other thing too that happened was John Henry made an appearance at spring training, but refused to talk to the media and basically laughed in the face of any media member that asked him to. You know, if you got the reports, Gabrielle Starr had it. They asked to talk to the media. John Henry laughed and told us no. Chris Cotillo said basically the same thing. John Henry was asked if he had a couple minutes to talk about the team, said no, then walked to the backfield. So for now, the streak continues. But the day isn't over. So Chris Cotillo was pretty positive about maybe something happening. Obviously, didn't. Sam Kennedy has kind of been the fall guy, which is why I think a lot of people have kind of liked Sam Kennedy over the years. Like they think, he's a native guy. I think people seem to think he cares a lot about the team. I might be on the one side or on the hill by myself that I just think, as people know and have heard me talk about him before, that I think he is the biggest snake oil salesman, the biggest, fraud on the planet. Because again, like I heard these comments about the Pedroia thing and how giddy he was about it. Like, I don't know if I'd be so happy that, like you said, all these players have coming out, Pavlovon, Pedroia, Ortiz after the Dever stuff that we'll get into in a second. Pedro has been vocal in the past about this team, as we know, from years prior. Like, I don't know if I'd be like, oh yeah, Dustin Pedroia, he called us and told us how we should run our operation. Like, dude, why are you admitting that? Like, you're admitting to all your faults here that's going on, and you're admitting that you're completely screwing this up, and you don't seem to care. And the other thing too, the other comment that caught a lot of people's attention, and again, as we talked about this whole offseason, the kind of disconnect, and just not being able to read the room and knowing the situation, is that Sam Kennedy basically admitted that Craig Breslow has had his hands tied and has been in handcuffs this offseason when it comes to making moves. He had the comment saying, quote, "We've set parameters for Breslow to operate under." That happened obviously on February 19th. But this was from Red Sox stats referring to this tweet. Again, the dysfunction and the lack of communication. Because on January 16th, Tom Warner, as we talked about when it happened, his comment was, "In the end, we don't have a line in terms of our payroll that we look at as much as trusting that Breslow is going to deliver on his assurance that we're going to be competitive." So which is it? Do you not have a limit on Craig Breslow? Do you have a limit on Craig Breslow? Do you guys know, who's talking to who here? The whole situation, as we've talked about before, is just screwed up. So like I said, anything Sam Kennedy says, whether it's sincere or not, or it's just that he's trying to cover things up or whatever, or trying to make a bad situation better, I don't believe any of it. I thought that, as most people I feel like did too, the Pedroia stuff was laughable that you had to come out and admit that. And again, like I said, that he was so giddy to do so. Like, to me, it didn't sit right with me. I texted it to you when it happened. Like, I read this, and the more I look at it and the more I was setting up the outline, it just pisses me off because it's just, I just don't get
I
how you
think
can run an operation like this.
it goes back to the mindset where like they think we're dumb
Mm-hmm.
because they think fans are like, oh, Petey was in his ear and he's like talking about it. Maybe
Yeah,
they'll
they'll get like
actually do
hyped for this.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll actually do something. They think we're dumb.
Well, that's what, like, too. I was waiting for, okay, just to throw out there, and then after, while we were having dessert, David Ortiz just happened to show up to the restaurant. He told it like I feel like it was just a random name. Maybe it happened. I can't imagine Dustin Pedroia is just, I don't know what time the dinner was at, just FaceTime and the Red Sox ownership in the middle of the night or whatever it was, or the evening. But like, to me, I read it as like, okay, take a former player that was beloved by Red Sox fans, and we'll just throw his name out there. And maybe we'll get some good PR back for it. Maybe Red Sox fans will be like, well, if Dustin Pedroia thinks like we think, then maybe things aren't that bad. Maybe if Pedroia's in their ear, that they'll maybe actually do something now. I call bullshit. I call BS. I don't believe it. I don't. Maybe he did. Um, if Pedroia called, I feel like it was probably like 1 second of like, hey, you guys gonna do anything else? And Sam Kennedy took it as like, oh, I'm gonna turn this into this whole spiel of, he told us to go sign these guys and do this. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. I feel like if it didn't happen, he wouldn't have said anything. But again, just the fact that I don't know many baseball teams that would sit there like the Yankees. I can't imagine. Brian Cashman would be like, "Oh, Mariano Rivera called us the other day and said we should go out and sign all these players. Like he's not happy with it. Like this is something to me you keep, and I'm rambling again, but you keep internal. Like you don't put this out there thinking it's some great thing with the offseason that you've had. Like you just continue to make the situation worse.
Yeah.
It is what like
It is what it is. Yeah.
You're in the mindset, and it's you've been. I'm not gonna like dump on you for it because it's been consistent, but you're in the mindset of like it just is what it is at this point. Like I'm not surprised by anything anymore. So like
And the
I
fact
wish I
that
could.
our
I
sweet
wish I could have
boy
the mindset you have when it comes to it, but it just pisses me off with like
that
just
our sweet boy had to say something, it just shows on another level.
absolutely. Any thoughts on the
Our sweet ice cream boy, as they call him.
yeah?
He just loves ice cream, and
Before we
he's
get
all
into the
happy
Dever
and smiley.
stuff,
And I saw his new picture this year. He's not
yeah,
smiling.
isn't that a coincidence? Everyone's kind of had that thought too on Twitter, like, oh, this is what happens when you somebody I can't remember who was had the meme. It's like before you go full throttle, and then after you were promised to go
Yeah.
full throttle and it didn't, or something along the lines of that. So that was great. Before we jump into that real quick, because there was a Casas thing I wanted to ask you on. Um, I don't know how mad I want to get about this because it is early in the whole process. But Casas was asked about an extension. This is from Chris Catello. He said, "quote Tristan Casas on if he had an extension talks with the Red Sox." He said, "Of course we have nothing enticing though. Any concern there that maybe they're already starting to lowball Tristan Casas? Again, I don't know how much money that you're going to throw a guy that's had just one decent season so far. Still got a lot to build for. But maybe there's some people at the time when I saw this, myself included, that were taken as like, oh, here we go again. Like maybe they're going to be a little bit of a stickler on a young homegrown player. So a little bit of worrisome. But again, that maybe just be that everything the Red Sox are doing are aggravating me. So any thoughts on the
Yeah.
Casa situation?
It is what it
It
is.
is what it is. Fair enough. You have the perfect mindset. It is the only way to go through it with this team at this point if you want to be positive.
I'm not gonna get too upset about it until, during the
There's reason
season
to.
we
Yep.
hear it a couple more times,
Mm.
and then I'm like gonna get actually angry, unless he's playing bad or
Mhm.
hurt, God forbid. At least they seem to be making progress on Bayo, which is good
That is the thing that offsets it. Is there
because you
was
have not
reports
homegrown an ace in a long time.
not since John Lester. He's the last one.
That is astonishing, by the way. That does not get talked enough. When did
That's the
John
name that
Lester come
everyone
into the
goes to.
league?
2000 and I want to say 6, but don't quote me on that.
That sounds right. It's a 6 or
I will
7,
look it
maybe
up.
8. Was he on the 7 World
He
Series
was,
team? I
because
forget.
he
Yeah, he was.
he
Yeah.
won the
Yeah.
clinching or pitched the clinching game of
Idiot.
that World Series.
Idiot question. Idiot
It's okay.
question.
It happens.
Didn't really think that one through. It's
No,
okay.
you're good. 2006.
Yeah.
2006.
That is
You could
astonishing
maybe throw
for
Clay
any
Buchholz's name into that list, but I mean, he obviously didn't have the career that Lester had. So
baseball club. This is the Red Sox. That is preposterous. That is
it
preposterous.
really is.
God,
I can't even think that
I miss
I
watching
don't,
John Lester in his
I don't think
prime
I'm
so
missing
very
anybody.
much.
Like those are the two. It's Lester and Buchholz, and everybody else has kind of been a free agent signing, a trade, disaster of like people thought maybe Henry Owens would be the next guy, but he sucked.
Henry
Like,
Owens. Who
yeah,
are some other ones? Any other good ones?
not that I can think of.
Who
Not to come to mind.
I remember people were excited about, I don't know, like ace level, like Alan Webster and Robbie De La
Yeah, yep.
Rosa. Maybe not Robbie De La Rosa as much, but I feel like Alan
No,
Webster
Alan
had some
Webster
hype.
definitely, yep, definitely had the hype around him. I mean,
Yeah,
Jay Groom when he got drafted,
Jay
kind of
Groom.
topical that Eric Hosmer retired today, so obviously 1-for-1 swap. But
Henry
myself
Owens was a
included,
big one.
yeah, I thought Henry Owens was going to be nasty, and he turned out to be
Mhm.
absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
But
he didn't play much.
yeah, you alluded to it though, kind of beating around the bush here a little bit. Rafael Devers, one of the biggest flame jobs or teardowns of the Red Sox ownership, to the point where I was listening to Felger and Maz today, and they were talking about this, and then Felger said that because obviously their studio, they have the Telemundo crew with them on the TV studio, whatever, and he said that he asked the Telemundo guys about the Devers because obviously Devers had this interview through a translator. And the guys on the Telemundo broadcast or whatever it was, the station, according to Felger, was like, oh, yeah, the translator left stuff out. Like, he cleaned this up. He did not say as much as Devers put out there. The people that can speak Spanish and can understand Spanish that listen to the Devers interview, stuff was definitely left out. Like, it was not as clean and put together and as maybe not, it obviously wasn't positive, but you know what I mean? Like, Devers definitely went after ownership a little bit more than some of the comments that you could actually, that were actually put out there by the translator, whose name I forgot to put in here. So apologies there. Not looking to, knock the guy or anything, or discredit him, but I just didn't put it in here, so that's on me. But yeah, these comments, Devers, talking with the media, meeting with the media at Fort Myers yesterday. The whole situation, I'll read through them. The first one was, they need to make adjustments to help us players be in a better position to win. Everybody in this organization wants to win. We as players want to win. I think they need to make adjustments to help us win. The second one was, I'm not saying the team is not okay right now, but there needs to be they need to be conscious of what the weaknesses are and what we need right now. Everybody knows what we need. You know what we need. They know what we need. There's some things I just can't say out loud. Everybody that knows the organization and knows the game knows what we need, aka pitching. Go get some. And then the last Devers quote was, in my point of view, they're thinking more about the future. Last year, we had an opportunity to do something, to be in the race. Nothing happened. I thought back then, of course, they were thinking in the future with those opportunities. When those opportunities come along, we need to be more aggressive and try to embrace those opportunities. The two things for me that stand out really quick, I think this last one was unprovoked. The fact that he brought up last year's trade deadline is kind of interesting, to obviously kind of show that this has been building the frustration from Devers, I'm assuming other players. I don't have it in the outline, but Kenley Jansen kind of had the same thing of like, I came here knowing that year one's probably going to be a work in progress, but year two, we were going to compete. Kenley Jansen's not happy. The other one from the Devers one too, obviously the one that has been picked apart and people have talked about the most, is the comment of, there's some things I can't say out loud. So obviously read between the lines there. Devers is rightfully pissed. Again, the Spanish-speaking community who saw the Devers interview and can understand what he said, without the translator, know that there was more said. So that's kind of interesting there. But your thoughts on it, because you kind of shook your head at that last point as well. Your thoughts on the whole Devers situation, because it is interesting. Like you said it earlier, a lot of these comments have come from old players that have been here and kind of have been on the outside looking in. The fact that your best player has called out management now, or more so front office ownership, kind of interesting to see, and see where it goes from here.
It just sucks, even though it's predictable to see this unfold, because when they locked up Devers and decided to eventually move on from Bogarts,
which was a PR job, by the way. Keep that in mind. It's like that happened, for the people that forget, that happened after the Red Sox ownership was booed at the Winter Classic. So that was a one-on-one move, if you ask me, a lot of people.
The Winter Meetings, not the Winter Classic.
No, it was Henry was booed at the Winter Classic, and then the Winter Meetings happened after that, I'm pretty sure. And then that's when they signed Devers.
No. The Winter Meetings.
There was a 1-1, like went hand in hand. Everyone was like, "You only did this because you got destroyed at the Winter Classic." Like,
okay, yep. So he obviously has every right to be pissed, but it's disappointing looking back on maybe having some hope that they would commit to building around him. Now that Mookie and Xander are gone, that he would be the guy they start to build around, and they haven't. They just haven't. It's that simple. He has every right to be frustrated.
Well, it goes back to
he's tied here for 10 more years.
Yeah, that's what people have kind of talked about too. It's like this guy right now is kind of stuck. Like, you just signed an extension. Obviously, you got a well-deserved pay raise. But now at what cost? Like, what team are you playing for the next decade? Like,
if Rafael Devers said John Henry needs to sell the team, he would be lauded in history forever. He would have a statue and all that.
He'd also have his ass shipped out to like Cincinnati. Not that Cincinnati's a bad team anymore.
Doubt he'd care at this rate.
He probably wouldn't. He'd probably be doing him a favor at this point. Yeah, because I mean, what the guy's gone through the last couple of years.
I'd build him a statue outside of the parking lot of my apartment.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of goes into the disconnect too, because I think another one of the again, didn't have it in the outline, but one of the big talking points from John Tomasi is that he believes that there is a huge disconnect between, within the front office itself, being John Henry is doing one thing and kind of everyone else is thinking the other. And that's kind of led some people back to talking about the full throttle comments, and that, maybe in hindsight, like Tom Henry, maybe they thought they were going to go in for it. Maybe that's why maybe a lot of these players are getting pissed now, and you're starting to hear more about these comments come out and these things come out, is maybe one part of the ownership group did believe that, hey, we got Craig Breslow coming in here. We're gonna with Heim Bloom, we kind of built it up a little bit here. Now we're gonna go out and we're gonna get some of these pieces where there's some actual guys available that we would fit our team well. And now you're looking at it, maybe John Henry's the one that's kind of putting the kibosh on everything, or kibosh, whatever the saying is. That nope, I'm gonna put my foot down. We're not doing anything. We're not spending money. And because I'm the principal owner, there's nothing you can do about it. So you can say all these comments that you want, and talk about going full throttle. But while I'm still here, while I'm still breathing and kicking, like, you're not doing anything on my dollar, so, or my dime. So I thought that was an interesting thing that kind of came out from spring training as well. And like I said, maybe that's now why you're seeing the Deverses, the Jansons. Alex Cora had a comment the other day when he met with the team, that he said, he wants the Red Sox to stop trying to copy other organizations and remember who they are, get back to the Red Sox identity, and eventually other teams will look at their plan and follow it. That to me is a cry for help. I feel like you probably feel the same way. I know it came out when he was addressing the team, but I can't take that as anything other than kind of a backhanded thing of stop operating like the Rays and the Athletics and start operating like big market teams. I think also in that comment, he said, everyone can't be the Dodgers. Yeah, that's true. You're not going to go out and spend billions and billions of dollars every offseason, but you can be competitive. You can be a big market team like you're supposed to be, instead of, this penny pinching team, or however you want to describe it. So it's a very tumultuous time. I find it interesting that things have kind of taken and gotten to a head. Now that everyone is together again at spring training, I don't think this is the end of what we're going to see. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if more guys start to come out and start to maybe voice their displeasure. Like, the fact that Devers, who is at this point your de facto leader and obviously your best player, the fact that he came out and kind of did this unprompted, like, I can't remember what the question was exactly, but the fact that he went for this long and made this many comments, and again alluded to last year's trade deadline when he wasn't even asked about it, not a great look. And I think it's kind of it's definitely a player crying out for help here, maybe speaking for the locker room again as their best player and as their probably de facto leader right now, which I'm fine with. Again, it kind of falls back into the Tatum thing of, like, it's a young player, but you'd like him to step up and have more of a voice. Like, if Devers is going to be that guy, I'm happy with it, because like you said, he's kind of thought of as like the happy-go-lucky guy that isn't, not that he's not serious, but you know what I mean. Like you said, it the Raffy Scoops things and everything. Like, he's thought I was like a big kid. The fact that he's kind of taken more of a voice and had more of a voice, is good to see, and you hope for more of it. You hope it changes, like you said. It is kind of funny that after this happens, now they're talking about extending Bayo, so maybe they're going to get peer pressured into doing some other things. There was a report that I don't know how much I believe about it today, that they are the quote unquote heavy favorites to sign Jordan Montgomery. I don't know how much you read into that.
Bullshit.
I don't believe it. I'm right there with you. But again, the timing is kind of interesting that this stuff comes out. It wouldn't surprise me if this is, again, just PR fluff to say, like, hey, we just had these blow-ups within the locker room and within the team. Now let's go put out some good PR and say that we're in on Jordan Montgomery again.
They're probably talking to Jordan Montgomery without serious intentions of signing him, so they're make sure this gets out into the media.
True. Yep. I'm right there with you. That's all it is.
I'm so sick of this team. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. The more you look at it, the more you read into stuff. It's like it's just very aggravating. Like, and I know we've said that every time we talked about the Red Sox here, but it is what it is. What it is. Like,
it is what it is.
You're more on the is what it is of on the positive side. I'm more it is what it is on the negative side of, like, and I don't know what's gonna have to change or what's gonna have to happen for this team to change. Like, John Henry's gonna have to legitimately just go away. But if it's not going to happen because the Red Sox are a moneymaker and he loves his money. Like, he is as a human personification of, like, Scrooge McDuck, if there was one. Just all about the money, and just anything else doesn't matter.
Yeah, he is amongst the worst people walking this earth.
Oh,
he sucks.
Too far-fetched.
That is going to wrap it up.
That is my Red Sox rant.
Yes. Get it off your chest, brother.
Yep. Thank you. Been building all weekend.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Been there before. Not as much with the Red Sox, but that's going to wrap it up for episode 181 of Sal and Cratty. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on the Full Press Coverage Twitch, YouTube channels, also on the Full Press Coverage app, free in the App Store. You can rate and review on Apple and Spotify. New and old listeners, we do appreciate you a lot. Find us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Sal and Cratty Pod. And we're also on TikTok. Just throw the name of the podcast into the search bar. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you then. Peace out.